Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Andrew, this is number 17 of Human Tuning by Dr. John Ballou. We're going to get into actually a set of tuning forks that I don't have because personally, I just don't feel the need to get them. I have the next group after this section, which is the brain tuners, but I won't be able to play these for you today because I don't have them. So, and for Andrew Zabrun III, who was very excited about the 17th chapter of this is it. Lemonade. So we're going to start, as Dr. John starts, every chapter with an anechoic dream from his recollections back to when he was a psychiatrist at Bellevue in New York and his initial experiments working in the anechoic chamber, meaning a chamber that has no echo, where he worked with tuning forks and learned about the power of sound and frequency. A large animal prowled through the twisted shadows without a source and unknown destination. I felt its presence only by sensations through my body as I walked through the spaces between the shadows and discovered a pond suspended above my head. I was wondering, how could water levitate? And that is when I heard the sound of thousands of voices lifting and suspending the pond on a cushion of resonant humming. I began to hum their sound and found myself transported into the water of the pond, looking upwards into the sunlight. The water was crystal clear, and the sunbeams refracted into hundreds of different prisms, filling the thousands of colors. I gradually changed my pitch of humming to make a different sound among myself and others. My humming sent waves of sounds outwards through the twisted shadows into the clear water of the pond, bursting into thousands of colors. I hummed wave upon wave until a hole in the fabric of dreams opened within a veil of spiraling colors. I began searching for the prowling animal by changing the pitch of my humming to resonate with the sound of the animal. It was then that I began to sense a link between the humming group and the animal, as the animal's sonic image began to return and form in my awareness. I looked upward into the pond and hummed the exact sound of the animal. The pond water became agitated and then burst into thousands of bubbles of deep sadness. Suddenly it began to rain sensations of multicolored sounds. I thought the pond was falling. I looked downward, then I realized the heads of all the humming people were tilted backward, and that thousands of colored sound droplets were falling into their throats. So what you just heard there was one of his recollections of being in the sensory deprivation chamber. Now we're going to move on to the music of the spheres, the planetaries. As I said, I don't have the planetaries, but they are all autos, which means they are osteophonic, auto for short. This is not one of those, but is an auto. It is an osteophonic. So you have body tuners, which look like a tuning fork that you activate, and then the frequency, the vibration moves between the times and creates the sound that you feel and hear. And there are osteophonic or autos, which have these weights at the top. And what the weights do is you activate the weight. You see it's not as loud because the weight is pushing that vibration down through the tines, through the handle, and what you do with an auto is you place it on your body and you feel that vibration. So all of the planetary tuners are auto. They're all to be used directly on the body. Okay? But I don't have any particularly to show you. The planet tuning forks create a resonance between ourselves and the planets. Quantum physics teaches us that quantum particles are also waves that travel over a very large region of space. The idea that something is both a form confined to a small region of space and simultaneously a wave spread out over a very large region of space is counterintuitive. Let me read that again. The idea that something is both a form confined to a small region of space and simultaneously a wave spread out over a very large region of space is counterintuitive. For that reason, we tend to identify with form and distance. For example, we're taught that a planet is a heavenly body millions of miles away. This is true from a form perspective. However, from a wave perspective, the tone of the planet is available right now through its resonance. A radio or television station can be thousands of miles away, and we can tune into it without thinking about distance or needing to be in the station. In a similar way, we can tune into a planet without having to be on the planet. Now, this is key because education in the future is not going to be about this. It's going to be about aligning yourself to the frequency where the information is. And that is a vital part of the upgrade. That is what part of what the ascension is. Some people already know that. We're already in degrees of that. We already know that all you have to do is you have to find the frequency, like tuning your radio, and you are in that modality for whatever you want in life. That's ascension. That's a big concept. This world of pentacles is changing. Quantum physicists call the property of tuning into phenomenon as a distance as non-locality. I do non-locality work all the time. I do what you might call Reiki work with people all the time. I use tuning forks to work on people remotely. I tune into their frequency, even though they might be in another state, another hemisphere, another country. And I work with that frequency with my tuning forks and a hologram that I create that is them. I do that all the time. That's what voodooans do. That's what hoodooans do. That's what prayer is. That's what Reiki is. That's what all that stuff is. A term refers to the ability of a quantum entity, such as an electron, to influence another electron particle simultaneously over any distance. It is suggested that the action of quantum particles that are in resonance retain a connection so that the actions of one will always influence the other. Non-locality has shattered the foundation of physics because actions do not have to be an observable, do not have to have an observable cause over an observable space. I don't need you here to work on your frequency field. I tune the radio to your frequency field, and I know when I hit it because I feel it happen. And then I work with that frequency field. And I'm not the only one. The Old Greek concept of sympatheia asserts that all forms and processes in the universe are in sympathetic resonance relationships. The Stoic Hellenistic philosopher Poseidonus is credited with the doctrine of cosmic sympathy, which led to the Pythagorean concept of music of the spheres. The Pythagoreans assigned musical values to the stars and the planets, and then they related each of these values to all aspects of living. Over the centuries, the concept was further developed by Plato, Cicero, Philon of Alexandria, and the early Renaissance by Johannes Kepler. And you know what? Let me show you some Kepler stuff. You may know this as a Merkaba. If you were to turn this 3D thing into a 2D shape, it would be a Star of David. It is actually a group of all the shapes, all the simple Platonic shapes that create creation. All the geometry that creates creation. It's two pyramids superimposed upon each other, creating all the angles of the Platonic model to create creation. This is creation to the Platonist, to the Keplerian. And if you imagine circles and ley lines moving around this, you would see the foundation of form. Now I'm going to add another layer of complication to that. If we've got two perfect triangles superimposed upon each other, now I want you to imagine that one triangle is moving in a clockwise direction, and the other triangle is moving in a counter-clockwise direction, and yet they are not fused, but sharing the same plasmatic space. If you were to take a Star of David and turn it into a three-dimensional object, it would look like this. If there's one triangle here, right? There's one pyramid here, the top point is here. And there's another pyramid here, and the top point is here. One of these is going to move clockwise, the other is going to move counterclockwise, and yet they are sharing the same space, sharing the same magnetic pole, but using it differently. That's life. That's life. That's Platonic, that's Keplerian, that's Pythagorean, and older than all of those guys. older than all of those guys. That's Egyptian, that's Sumerian, that's Waukesha, that's Native American. Just let that move into your unconsciousness. That's life right there. Johannes Kepler lived from 1571 to 1630. He was a mathematician and mystic. He is credited with discovering that the Earth and planets travel around the sun in elliptical orbits, which he described in his 3 fundamental laws of planetary motion. Kepler believed that the planets made sounds as they whirled around the sun. At first, he theorized that these sounds were harmonies based on his ear for Western musical harmony. After his discovery of elliptical planetary orbits, he still believed the planets made sounds. However, he came to a different conclusion. And that created the work, The Harmonies of the World. In it, he states, the heavenly motions are nothing but a continuous song for several voices to be perceived by the intellect, not by the ear. A music which, though discordant tensions, syncopations, and cadences, as it were, progresses through certain pre-designed sixth-voiced cadences, and thereby set landmarks in the immeasurable flow of time. Six-voiced cadences. What if you mounted this or hung it from a string, and you were to draw circles around the points, turning this into a globe? You would have six-voiced cadences that you may or may not hear with your ears. Planet tuning forks bring Kepler's vision of singing planets out of the realms of intellect and into the realm of human hearing. The sounds of the planet tuning forks are based on the theories and mathematical calculations of Swiss scientist Hans Cousteau. In order to arrive at the tone of a planet, Cousteau takes the reciprocal value of the duration of the astronomic or orbital period of the planet. It's simple, clear, and accurate. For instance, the Earth has a rotation period of 24 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds, totaling 86,164 seconds. The reciprocal value is mathematical terminology for dividing by 1. The result is 1/86,164th. And the frequency is 0.0000116057. This frequency is inaudible. However, the sound of a planet does not depend upon the normal audibility of a tone. Tones exist whether we hear them or not. So, hello, you don't have to hear it for it to work, which is why I can work on deaf people, because it doesn't matter if they hear it. Their cells hear it. Their cells feel it. Their nervous system feels it. Ego bitch slap here, right now. What your ego processes in your mind because you think you are some authority on something just got slapped down to the ground. You don't have to hear it for it to work. You don't have to understand it in the capacity of the thinking processes and logical lines that you have for it to work. It still works. It'll work better if you get over the need to understand what everything is in your terms and instead go, wow, I have something to learn from this. Wow. Wow. The joy of wonder. The joy of the 0 card in tarot, the Fool. Shut the fuck up and pay attention. You don't know everything. Learn something new. Learn that you don't know everything. The human hearing range is limited to 16 cycles per second to 20,000 cycles per second. Bats, for example, are able to hear in the supersonic range of 20,000 to 100,000 cycles per second. Whales and dolphins are able to perceive acoustic as well as electromagnetic waves. Bats are able to hear in the supersonic range 20,000 to 100,000 above the highest frequencies audible to human beings. Because they don't see with their eyes, they see with their ears. The law of the octave is used to bring the sound of a planet into the audible range of a tuning fork. An octave is a doubling or a halving of a tone. Doubling or halving in audible sounds in order to hear them is common in modern research. Recently, scientists have used the octave to transpose the sound of deep sea fish and bats from the ultrasonic range into the range of human hearing. It's also used to bring the sounds of pulsars and stars into the audible range for better understanding. When the frequency of Earth is raised 24 octaves, which means it's doubled 24 times, it becomes the audible frequency of 191.74 cycles per second. For instance, oh, tell me it's still here. This tuning fork is 144 hertz. It is an octave multiplication of the Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance is 7.84. It's the heartbeat of the Earth. The groundedness of the Earth. What it is either the 11th or 12th. Forgive me. There's already a mathematician who's figured this out. It's already the 11th or the 12th octave of the Schumann resonance. And it's an auto. So it's amplified 12 times into a range that we can hear as a drone, but we can feel. See it moving? And so what you do with the autos is you put it on you. And it grounds your nervous system like walking in the grass with bare feet. Beautiful. Where am I? Okay, so here's a chart that breaks it all down. And again, I don't have these tuning forks because I just don't feel a need to own them. But what it does is it tells you the celestial body, and this is stuff you can look up online. And the celestial body, the rotation time, how many times they had to amplify the octave to get it audible. You know, this they had to amplify 11 or 12 times for you to even hear it. And it's just a drone. And part of that is because it's an auto. It would sound different if it was a regular tuner. But if it was a regular tuner, it would be like a foot long. The frequency and the appropriate tone based on scale, C, C sharp, C flat, D, and so on. So there's all that, and this is stuff that you can access. This is all over the internet. You can get all this information if you're interested. Each planet has its own archetype deep in our collective unconsciousness. What are those archetypes? Those archetypes are what the Greek and Roman myths were based on, right? That's why they're gods that are named after the planets. Jupiter, Neptune, all those guys. The sound of each planet tuning fork activates the archetype of the planet. When we hear them, qualities are awakened within us that resonate with the planet. To describe the process, Johannes Kepler said, well, this is spoken in a different language. The archetype of the truest harmony lies within our soul. The planets have been sounding in cosmic space for millions of years. We are immersed in their vibrations, and our genes are are those of all living beings tuned to the movements of the planets. I guess the flat earthers might argue with you about that. Our unconscious mind knows them just as it knows how to breathe. When we are tuned to a planet or planets, their sounds unconsciously affect our behaviors. Understanding these effects and how to make them conscious in order to better integrate them is a basis of the ancient art of astrology. Now, I will say, I know some witchy types who have these tuning forks, and I know astrologers who do, well, not body work, but they do like Reiki, and they incorporate a Reiki reading with an astrological reading for different kinds of, for therapeutic uses. I honestly don't know a single body worker who has these tuning forks because we just don't really operate here. The people that I know that have them are, as I said, the ancestor nature worshiping type, which I call them witches with all the respect in the world, as I call Hoodooans and Voodooans those names with great respect. And people that do Akash and astrological stuff. Chaldean astronomers are said to have been keeping records on the movement of the stars and the planets for 490,000 years. Berosus, a Chaldean astronomer responsible for the birth of Greek astrology, settled on the island of Kos and taught there until he was 116 years old. The late 1st century BC Roman writer Vitruvius wrote of Berosus and the Chaldeans, "It must be allowed that we can know what effects the 12 signs and the sun, moon, and 5 planets have on the course of human life, from astrology and the calculations of the Chaldeans." The Chaldeans did not separate themselves from the heavenly bodies in their observations. They felt the planets through sympathia. This led to their Hermetic axiom of as above, so below, which encapsulates the correspondence between the microcosm and the macrocosm. Charles Musis believes the crown jewel of Alexandria was the doctrine of the ordered interrelatedness of all things by the power of what was then called sympathia. The ordered interrelatedness of all things by the power of sympathia. To render this far-reaching thought into our analytic scientific terms requires the sophisticated concept of holistic systems governed principally by the affinities or antipathies generated by the resonances or anti-resonances in waves and periodicals. The worldview at the peak of the Chaldean civilization was a lot different than ours. To say they were primitive or superstitious is a great misunderstanding and disrespect. Instead of expressing themselves in a calculus of numbers, they chose the language of myth and symbols. What is left of their discoveries has been passed on through us through alchemical and archetypal symbols of astrology. The direct experiences of being with and feeling the planets, the source of so much knowledge, can be reawakened through the planetary tuning forks. The concept of planetary tuning forks and planetary resonance is not so extraordinary in the light of the discovery of the geomagnetic wave frequency known as the human resonance. This resonance is a magnetic pulsation between the surface of the Earth and the ionosphere, which oscillates at a frequency of 7.8 cycles per second. The same frequency has been correlated with alpha brainwave patterns and is associated with states of deep meditation. Where am I? Let me see if I have something I can grab right quick. I have my brain tuners, I think, within reach. No, I don't. Those are my Fibonacci's. Never mind. The brain tuners will do next anyway. I have to get up out of the chair again, and I don't want to. Oh, no, wait. I think these are the brain tuners. Yes, these are the brain tuners, which are the next section. But he was just talking about the Schumann resonance is correlated to alpha. So this is alpha brainwave frequency. What the Schumann resonance does for you. Shh. Listen. Close your eyes and feel it. What do you feel being activated in your noggin by this frequency? This is alpha. I'm not moving my hand. That's the fork you see vibrating. This is alpha brainwave. Like walking with bare feet in wet grass. Schumann resonance. Alpha. Where was I? It may be the frequency of Gaia, which is achieved in altered states of consciousness during shamanistic rituals. By tuning into this frequency, we become one with the earth. Listening to any planet tuning fork or placing them on your body is like being on that planet. With the planetary tuning forks, we enter into a resonant field of the planet, and we're able to tune into those qualities. The following chart gives the basic qualities of each planet. It should be used in conjunction with tuning into the planet's experiences. So now we're getting into like astrology, right? Where the properties of the planets, how they affect your houses. Lemonade. Earth is stability and gravity. The sun is light, warmth, joy, and illumination. The moon is love, sensitivity, creativity, femininity, anima. Anima is the feminine aspect of the male. Mercury, that's me. Intellectuality, mobility, quickness, that's me. I am mercurial as hell. Venus, beauty, love, sexuality, harmony. Mars, force, energy, freedom, human. Jupiter, growth, success, justice, spirituality. Saturn, focus and boundaries. Neptune, imagination, spiritual, love, and secrets. Uranus, spontaneity, independence, originality. Pluto, power, change, and crisis. I love Pluto. I love change and crisis. I love them. Tuning into the planet's exercises. Choose the planet you want to tune into. Sit quietly in a safe space and call in the planet. Calling in means that you ask for the planet to resonate with you and is in a way of tuning into the wave qualities of the planet. Well, you can do that without a tuning fork. You can do that with any tuning fork. You can use any tuning fork that brings you into a place where you line up with your shushuma, and then you can call in any frequency you want. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of everything. It's the same way with crystals. Buy crystals and learn how to use them, not as decorations, not as earbobs. That's so disrespectful. But as important living teachers of frequency because these things are alive. They're cut from the earth alive, and they remain alive. So learn from them what you can. Learn how they work. Same with wood. Wood is alive when it's cut. Learn when it can teach you different kinds of wood. And then get to a point where you don't need the tool anymore, because you can resonate to the frequency. You can call the frequency in. The moment your mind acknowledges the planet through calling it in is like tuning the dial of a radio tuner to a specific station. At this point, whether you are aware of it or not, you're receiving the planet. Yes. Yes, you can go buy these tuning forks. You don't need to. To work in this kind of frequency modulation, I would recommend that you buy at least one tuning fork in your life. So you really can learn about that, whatever it is. Auto 128 is a really good tuning fork to start with, or the C and G fifth, but you don't need to buy all these tuning forks that I have. $2,000 worth of tuning forks. You don't need to buy all that. But it would help you to have a way in to learn from. But then learn from it. Don't just put it around your neck or in your ears or on your ring finger like a disrespectful, vain, glorious, entitled, spoiled brat. No, it's a living being that can teach you more about how you can be a more evolved living being. Take that opportunity with respect. Take the tuning fork that resonates with the planet and sound it. Bring it to your left ear and hum with the sound. Tap it again, bring it to your right ear and hum with the sound. Put down the tuning fork close to your eyes and hum with the sound of the planet. If you're not sure if you're in tune, then tap the tuning fork and bring it to your ears again. So this is a protocol that he does all through the book. You can do that with anything. You can say, okay, let's vibe with alpha. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take what he said and we're going to do it. We're going to strike the alpha. We're going to bring it to one ear. So we're resonating with it. Then we're going to bring it to the other ear. Then we're going to bring it between our eyes to our third eye. And it sounds different here. Now the difference is if you're using an auto, you'd be putting it on you, right? Well, you wouldn't be putting it on your ear. Whenever you use an auto and you sound it, you activate the auto, which is a drone. You don't really hear it. But put this part where the hole is facing your ears when you're listening to it. And it's different. It's because the physics are different, the frequencies are not going to be the same when you have an auto tuning fork or a regular tuning fork. So this is more like throat singing. But the difference is when you have it between your third eye, I'm putting it on my third eye and my whole cranium is vibrating. So you can do that with any tuning fork, and then you can bring that in. If you're using a crystal tuner, for instance, this is tuner 4096, which is the frequency of quartz. This is a piece of quartz, which you can do, activate it, put the piece of quartz somewhere on your body where you want to. Let's do it this way so you can see it. Let's put the piece of quartz right there. So the piece of quartz is resonating with the tuning fork, and it is sending like shock waves through my wrist, because the frequency of this is the same as the frequency of this. So it's like, if I was using an auto, and this is not the frequency of quartz, but nonetheless, I'm going to activate that, and then I'm going to put it on the quartz. And now the quartz is resonating with the quartz in us, because we are all silicate beings like quartz, and that is amplifying that frequency into me like mad. Okay, so the next section is about the brain tuners, which we'll do tomorrow. Then he gets into some dissertations about resonance and dissonance. And rhythm. So I'm going to end here. Tomorrow we'll get into the brain tuners. You experienced alpha today. Alpha's meditation state. We'll go through all of them tomorrow. This is the brain tuning set. Gamma, high speed. Theta, that's falling asleep, starting to wake up. Beta, hey, I'm on it. Delta. And what comes with it is what's called fundamental. So you can play, like I can play gamma, high speed, high speed, high speed. I can activate. This tuning fork is really cool because it resonates with whatever frequency you want to. So you play gamma and the fundamental, and you put them on both sides of your ear, and the fundamental fork will just simply automatically harmonize with the gamma. So you put these one on each side of your ear, and you're, oh my God, that's so powerful. You're dosing your entire brain with both, and you can use it for either. So it makes, see how the tuning fork becomes, it completely resonates with the other tuning fork. So yeah, so this is the brain tuner set. But I'm going to tell you, as effective as this is, don't go buy this. Of all the tuning fork sets, I actually think that this is the most sophisticated set to work with. If you don't know how to work with tuning forks, don't buy this. Don't, please don't. It's going to be too much. It is the most complicated set. It's more complicated than the Fibonacci and the solfeggio, and that's saying a lot. This is the most subtle, powerful set. I am still learning how to work with this set. It's so powerful. So, yeah, don't start there. More is not better. Start with 1 or 2 forks. Really understand how they work, how they affect all your systems, and then build slowly. I did not just wake up and spend $2,000 on tuning forks. No, it was a process of years. And actually, I started with singing bowls. Okay, so let's close. Let's use Jacob's Ladder and quartz to rock you out. Thanks. See you tomorrow.